Come what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it.
Hello, welcome to LDS Unmarried Life. This is a podcast for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who find themselves single either through divorce, being widowed, or just not yet married. There is no affiliation with the church. I am your hostess, Annette Bybee, and today I am joined by my co-author, Steve Smith, and we wrote this book together called Dating After Divorce, an LDS Survival Guide. And we're still shopping it around. We'll see what publisher steps up to take it. And I encourage you to go back and listen to the first two podcasts, which covered chapters 1 and 2. And also, I invite you to our website at annettetalks.com to listen to those episodes as well as the roundtable discussions that we've had thus far. And post your comments or reach out with ideas. You can either post a comment under an episode or send me an email at annettetalks.com. So, Steve, good to see you again.
Hello.
You sound really excited.
I'm extremely excited.
All right, so we are in chapter 3, and the title is Ready, Set, Find a Date. Because if you'll recall from the other two chapters, first we warned you not to date until you've been divorced for a while. And then we talked about the things you're going to be facing that you weren't facing before you were married, most likely. And talked about how things are completely different than they were when you were 20-something, and all you had to worry about was your job or school or whatever. And now all of a sudden you have kids and an ex.
So my advice is to just go back and work on yourself for another 6 months.
Assuming let's just fast forward in time and you've been divorced for a good year and you've done all the work on yourself that we talked about in the last two chapters and you're in a good place, ready to date. Our
you
tip,
think.
What's that?
So you think.
So you think. You'll find out when the rubber hits the road, right?
I guess.
I would say if you get out there and you start running into a lot of speed bumps, you like my driving analogies? If you're running into a lot of speed bumps in dating, it might be because you're not ready yet.
They're more like cliffs.
Yeah, it feels like it sometimes, doesn't it? It feels like you totaled your car. But anyway, tip number 3. Oh, this chapter is Ready, Set, Find a Date, and the first section is on activities. And so tip number 3 is put a smile on your face and go to church-sponsored singles activities. And so I'm going to start reading and then we'll stop where we need to. Seems pretty obvious, right? One of the reasons I'm including this tip is because I have discovered that there are many single people, especially men, out there that I only meet if I happen to find them on an online site. See the next chapter. And since meeting people in person is far better, in my opinion, it would be great if we could get more folks out to the activities. So yeah, I put that in there because I'll go on Planet and I'll find guys and I'm like, well, where have you been? I mean, I'm wondering now how many guys are out there that never go to anything. And I'm thinking there are a lot. So I'm trying to boost some.
And those are the good guys.
Yeah, well, there are a few. And I'm thinking, why are these gems out there hiding themselves, right?
Because they're scared.
Well, I do want. Do you really think that's what it is?
Fear. Women.
What are they afraid of?
Women.
Well, are we scary?
Yes.
Why do you think we're scary?
Because a lot of them aren't nice.
Oh.
You ask them out and they tell you no.
Not even on your birthday.
Yeah, not even on your birthday.
That was at the last podcast episode. Steve's got a theme going here.
Yeah.
But then there are a lot of us that are nice and we won't bite you if you come to the activities. So anyway, back to the book. Activities seem to have a bad rap because they are poorly attended or because it's always the same group of people that show up. Well, the cure for that is if more people show up. So I'm plugging activities. Just go and encourage others to go. If they aren't what you were planning or what you were hoping for, try to make them better. Get involved in planning or help those that are planning, especially if you live in areas that are not Salt Lake City, or environs. You might have a small gathering each time, but you got to get out there and invite people that aren't showing up. So you'll find that singles groups within the church are broken into age categories. At least this is the case here. This might not be the same everywhere, but
Yeah, it probably is.
we've got young single adults, ages 18 to 30, mid-singles, ages 31 to 45, and then here they call it the all singles, which is ages 31 and up, which obviously there's overlap. I guess they need to do this so singles can try to socialize with people somewhere near their age, but it does cause some angst for people like me, who I'm now 50, who still want to socialize with 40-somethings and run into more 70-somethings at the all singles events. And in parentheses, my mom is single, and I often see her at these activities. Can you say awkward?
I think it's funny because that's one of the first times I met Annette, and her mom was at a singles dance.
Yeah. So, and we knew that eventually I would meet someone who was halfway in between our ages, and there would be sort of a triangle going on.
Love triangle.
Yeah.
They both like him.
And so it happens. But anyway, without getting into that, it's awkward. And so, yeah.
And there's nothing like being chased by a lady who has a cane or a walker.
Well, you can escape pretty easily, though, right? But yeah, stuff like that happens. I mean, honestly, if I wanted to get married tomorrow, there are a number of 75-plus-year-old dudes that I could.
I'm just saying, you should see how good their life insurance is.
I can tell we've been doing this for a while, a little punch drunk by this time. But anyway, back to the book. I end up floating between the two groups. No one from the mid-singles has ever carded me, and I've always felt welcome, especially since there are a few other people my age doing the same thing. But if I want to meet someone my age or older, I need to branch out and go to the all singles. Those activities are sometimes very well attended, other times not so much. Kind of like life. You take the good with the bad. So yeah, I'll go to mid-singles things, and they're fun and everything, but most of the people are 5+ years younger than me. Almost never meet someone my age. And then I go to the all singles things.
That's because they card most of us that look that old.
Oh, nobody's getting carded at these things. I go to the all singles, and yeah, it's my mom's group, and I'm not really interested in dating those guys. So yeah, it's tough, these arbitrary ages. And for some reason, there's a lot of 40-year-old guys that are single, that are divorced, and not as many 50-year-olds. I don't know what it is. But anyway.
They've probably died off.
Seriously. All right, church-sponsored activities include dances, home evening groups, firesides, holiday parties, restaurant meetups, temple sessions, religions or institute classes, etc. They're advertised in wards and on Facebook or on websites dedicated to singles activities. I suggest checking them all out to start. Then decide which ones you feel most comfortable with, or you can make it to because of scheduling issues. I like firesides and temple sessions because we get spiritually fed and get the opportunity to socialize. A temple session is especially great because if nothing else, you got to the temple. And I still like that because I go and I figure, I go to a temple session and I know I'm getting a session. And if no socialization happens or a pretty lame socialization happens, I didn't waste my time. I got a temple session in. And with firesides, usually the same thing. Although they get to be kind of late on a Sunday night, start feeling kind of tired, but that's another issue.
If you weren't out all night on Saturday night.
Yeah. Well, break the fasts are good too. Our stake does one here once a month, which is really nice. So if you can find something like that, where you can sit down and break fast with people, that it's just another really, I don't know, it's conducive to good socialization. So our area has a religion class for mid-singles. I have attended a few times but can't get there weekly because it coincides with getting my kids to bed. But these classes are an excellent way to socialize and learn the gospel at the same time.
They are really good. I like to go whenever I can. I'm just so far away from the classes that it makes it not very easy to get there every week.
Yeah, we're lucky in Denver. We're in the Denver area that they do. I mean, we have a fairly active singles program. And there's stuff going on almost weekly, most of the time. And so, yeah, if you have an Institute of Religion class near you, that's a really great place to go and meet and socialize with others. Home evening groups are usually just for people with no kids at home. And then when I wrote this, I said, so I never get to go to those. But since then, our stake has actually started a home evening group once a month where they actually have a member of the state high council that goes with our kids. So I'm lucky to be able to do that. I played kickball the last one and scraped up my knee, so that was kind of sad. But I don't know why I'm 50-year-old is doing things that I used to do when I was 20, but it was still fun.
That's what you're doing when you were 20. Kickball's like elementary school, right?
Yeah.
I really love the home evening groups. I've met so many incredible people at home evening group. It's nice to have a simple spiritual message, treats. Women know treats usually attract the guys if they're good. And then they have some games or activities which are always fun and full of conversation with people going to the same thing that you are. I'm not going to say that they're a support group, but you can find support, friendship, and fun at these events. Now, there's two trains of thought for these home evening groups. If you don't like venturing out to singles dances, firesides, those kind of things where there are many, many people, these groups are much more intimate. If you don't like being in the bigger crowds, you can host a home evening group in your home, and that's a good part. You can be in control. You can set the agenda, you can set when it starts, how long it lasts, all of it. And now the other part is people will know where you live.
Well, wait, the only other bad part about having it at your place is you can't leave it if it's boring.
Right, or if people refuse to leave.
Oh, yeah, people stay and stay and stay.
And then they know where you live. And sometimes they show up and knock on your door a month later.
Yeah, that hasn't happened to me yet, but I guess it happened to you.
And so that can be both good and bad, having people know where you live. Because I've had some wonderful visits during the holidays with some amazing treats. But I've also had people show up at my home at odd hours and didn't know why they were there or what they really wanted. So it's the good and the bad of people knowing where you live.
I guess that's when you need to get one of those Ring apps for your front door so you can see who's out there.
And just not answer.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, you keep bringing up treats. I guess that's a big deal for you.
I must have been hungry when I wrote this.
I guess so. All right, so restaurant meetups can really vary depending on how many people attend, but smaller turnout is not necessarily a bad thing if you get to sit next to someone of interest. I've been to a few, but don't go often because I don't like being limited to socializing with the few people I'm sitting near. I like to be able to work the room. Others may prefer this setting.
Restaurant lunches, dinners can be loads of fun. As you might be able to tell already, I enjoy a more intimate setting to get to know someone. I like getting to know a few people better than, well, lots of people a little. The nice part about the restaurant meetings is you can leave anytime. Nothing says you can't leave if you don't see a reason to stay. Nothing also says you can't stay after with the group to have dessert or get to know them better.
Yeah, the good things about the restaurant meetups is you can show up late if you want to. If there's someone that you're interested in and you manage to maneuver to sitting next to them, then you have an opportunity to have some one-on-one conversation without actually being on a date with the person. And then if you manage to be smart enough to sit next to two people of interest, you can go back and forth, talking to one, then the other, and then back. And then, like you said, you can leave whenever you want. I'm a big fan of being able to leave whenever I want. Because if you're in a situation where maybe there's someone you're not comfortable with, or you're just bored or tired or whatever, you can just get up and leave. Not a big deal at a restaurant. So those are good options. I really like dances because I love to dance. The caveat is, of course, the music. If they're playing too many line dances or country songs,
oh, what's wrong with country?
I lose interest. But other people like that kind of music. Obviously, Steve's one of them. Now, groups of us just get up and dance together. Oh, I'm sorry. In the old days, we used to stand around waiting to be asked to dance. That's us ladies. Now, groups of us just get up and dance together. I like that because I hate the soul-sucking feeling of wondering if I'm going to get asked or being asked by the wrong guys to slow dance.
Me too. I hate that feeling.
You've had to slow dance with some of the wrong guys?
Yes. Uh-huh. But it's nice that you have to keep the Book of Mormon space between you.
Yeah, I don't think that was a church dance you were at if guys were asking you. But no, honestly, there was one time I was at a dance, and I know other ladies had the same experience where a guy with a disability asked me to dance that I had never met him, never had a conversation with him. We're slow dancing, and he told me he had a crush on me.
He proposed?
Practically.
Did he have a ring in his pocket?
I could make a comment that I'm not going to make right now. But there was the one time I used the age card because he was like in his early 30s, and I said, I'm old enough to be your mom. And he said, I don't mind. I said, well, I do. But anyway, the point is that the slow dance can cut both ways. You know, it can be great or not so great. So I like having the option to get out there and dance. The downside to group dancing is that it's not a great way to socialize. But I find opportunities to do that in the foyer or next to the refreshments, right? Like you guys are always hanging out by the refreshments, right? So if I want to talk to guys, I could just go over to the refreshments and act like I'm getting a cookie or something.
See, I think you really have to have the spirit with you to go through this dating stuff. And to get out there where people are wiggling and doing all kinds of stuff, it just kind of chases the spirit away.
Wiggling and doing all kinds of stuff.
Dancing, yeah, because they're just out there wiggling and doing their thing. And, you know, the spirit gets chased away.
I'll take your word for that. I know men tend to avoid dances, but judging by the numbers of women compared to men, it's a target-rich environment, guys. So if you're not going to dances, you should know there are lots of women that go. So if you want to be where the ladies are, go to the dances.
Okay, guys, I'll give you a hint. If you didn't already know, women love to dance, as you've heard Annette say. If you've not been dancing in years, like yours truly when he got divorced, invest in some lessons. Not that you might need the lessons, but it gives you confidence on the dance floor. Women seem to like the confidence. Save up some money, then spend some. Take some lessons, group lessons if you have to. But a side note, the group lessons are much less expensive, and you'll get some interaction with many women. You may not have had the opposite sex interactions while you've been married, so this gives you the opportunity to put yourself in social situations and practice conversing. Attend a dance, and it is right, as much as I don't like to attend the dances, the odds are good. The problem is the goods are sometimes odd.
He went there. You know, I have to tell you, this is funny, but I had a married friend listen to one of the chapters that we podcasted about. I think it was chapter 1. And she said it gave her nightmares about losing her husband.
If you're married and you're listening, go home and hug your spouse. Tell them you love them.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that maybe we need to promote this book to bishops that are counseling couples that are having difficulties, because all they have to do is see what we go through. But I told her, I said, one of the advantages to being single again is getting to go to dances, because I love dancing. And let's face it, nobody ever dances when they're married. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Anyway, all right, so Steve mentions the goods are odd. As I pointed out earlier, there are a lot of people with huge issues. You'll run into these people at the dances, as well as special needs folks and socially challenged individuals. So you may end up dancing with people you're not necessarily interested in dating. This is a good opportunity to practice kindness and patience. Oh, this is one of the reasons why I kind of avoid the slow dance thing altogether. Because either you end up dancing with someone you don't really want to, or you worry that the one that you really want to is not going to ask you. And I had it, I had enough of that when I was a teenager. So I like to go and what is it, wiggle around, losing the spirit,
Shake your groove thing.
Yeah, I like to shake my groove thing with the big old group and just have a lot of fun, and then, go out in the hall and chat or whatever. So anyway.
That's all we're saying on dances.
All right, so moving on from dances. Then you have private gatherings put on by individuals in their homes. These can often be a lot of fun. It's a more casual atmosphere than a church building, and you'll run into different people than you might meet at church-sponsored activities. I go to these quite frequently and sometimes host them myself. They include things like movie nights, break the fast, dance parties, and dinners. I recommend attending them as well. It's just another way to broaden your horizons and meet more people. And I started these podcast roundtables for the same thing, and I'm actually discovering that they're a lot of fun and a really great way to meet people. So I would say if you can have dinner parties where people get a chance to talk, because they don't need to record or podcast, but just...
Oh, that's another idea that we've done in the past, is to have a small dinner group.
Are you
3
guys?
guys,
Club?
yeah, 3 guys and 3 women, or 4 guys and 4 women, that you can know somebody a little bit more than wiggling out on the dance floor, or a fireside where you're trying to get their attention and wink at them or something because they're on the other side of the room.
Yeah, and I think what I took from this last conference, I mentioned this in the last podcast, I think, but I feel like the church wants us to have more gatherings that are not church-sponsored. And I think that singles need to gather, and sometimes singles need to gather with their kids, but I think the more we can gather as groups and be supportive of each other outside of church-sponsored activities, the better. So, yeah, I think small dinner parties where you can either play games afterwards, or like I like to have really great discussions. You can bring out some games that promote discussions. But
I'm not really a game player. I'm a pretty straight shooter.
Oh, you mean it's other than head games? Just kidding. All right. So whether it's a church-sponsored or private party, sometimes you'll have a great time. Other times it'll feel like work. Let's face it. Finding people to date is a part-time job. You have to put in the time and effort if you want to be successful. I say a little prayer on my way to all social activities that goes something like this. Please let me meet someone wonderful to date. If I can't meet someone wonderful, let me have a great time. If I can't have a great time, let me find someone to help. That way I go in with low expectations.
Set the bar low. So
Yes.
In case
Well, because how many times have you, especially when I was first divorced and back on the single scene, and I was thinking it was going to be kind of like it was before I was married, and I would go to activities and discover it really wasn't like it was before I was married. There's just so many issue-ridden people that you run into, and it's just that everyone's got so much going on in their lives that everyone's not there just having a happy-go-lucky time. There's just a lot more complication. It's a different atmosphere. So I had to adjust my expectations accordingly.
Downward.
Yeah, pretty much. And one of those things that I pray for will usually happen. Very rarely do I feel like I totally wasted my time. If I'm looking around for an opportunity to help someone, I'll find it, even if it just means lending a listening ear or giving some words of encouragement. I remember one time I went to this party, and we were all playing games, and there was a guy there that had been engaged, and I think he had announced it on Facebook or something, but everyone had known that he was engaged. Well, he's now disengaged, and I guess that was fairly new, and someone asked him about his fiance, and I could see him getting visibly upset, and he went outside, and I just happened to go outside a little bit later for some reason, and he obviously needed to talk, and so I was there to let him talk, and hopefully helped him a little bit through that.
That goes to another topic. Do you want to put your whole life out there on Facebook?
No.
Or social media in general?
Engagement I could see, although even that, maybe. But anyway, the point is I was able to help somebody. I don't recall much else about that night other than having that long talk with him and letting him talk and trying to help him make sense of everything. And so I think every activity you go to, that opportunity is going to be there if you're looking for it. All right, so if you're nervous about getting out there, find someone else from your ward or in a Facebook group and ask to carpool. This way you have someone to introduce you to the group and show you the ropes. You'll find that most singles are very friendly and eager to make new friends or acquaintances. And if you don't want to go with someone who's opposite sex and you're brand new, find someone, same gender to go hang with. And there's less
stress and anxiety that way.
Yeah, exactly. You're just going to have fun. All right, so get out there and have some fun, make some friends. If nothing else, you can find people to go on hikes, to movies with, etc.
And if you find yourself struggling to attend any of the events, find out who the other singles are in your area. I started driving to firesides, dances, restaurant meetings, most all of the events, and I'd invite anyone in the area that wanted to go to carpool with me. I'd keep a list of phone numbers or emails, and when I decided to attend something, I'd blast a message and see what happened. I've really been able to get to know people driving back and forth from the activities. I've also been able to hear what people like and dislike about the activities and dating. Lots of useful information can be had there.
Yeah, I think that getting out there and dating again is really networking. And the more people that you know and the more people that you connect with, the better chance you have of meeting
good, solid people.
Good, solid dating candidates, yes. Whereas if you don't get out there very often and you don't really connect with anyone, you have less interaction. The fewer people you're going to meet and the less knowledge you're going to have. It really pays to get out there and find out what people are saying about other people or what people know about other people, because there have been guys that have approached me on Planet or in person, and I already knew enough about that guy to know I'm gonna let this one down gently because I don't want to waste his time or my time because I already know enough about him to know we're not going to be a good fit. And that's one of the great things about networking. But also, I mentioned this in our last podcast, but if there's someone in your group that you've brought in for whatever reason that's not someone that you're necessarily interested in dating, or someone that's just a friend of the same sex, these are all connections that you have to introduce to other people who you think might be a good fit. So the more people you know, the more you're likely to be able to help other people find a date or find one for yourself. So the message of this chapter basically is get out there. Put yourself out there. Allow yourself to be a little vulnerable.
Just gives you a little insight into what kind of activities are out there.
Yep. Jump into find what you can. Find what's in your area. If you don't know, find one other single in your ward and ask that person, or in your stake and ask that person. But it shouldn't take much to find out what the singles activities are in your area. And once you're plugged in, if you're willing to get out there and be a little bit vulnerable and allow people to get to know you, you'll get hooked up to the social pipeline fairly quickly. So that's pretty much chapter 3. Next time when we go into chapter 4, we're going to talk about online dating, which we covered a little bit in our podcasts today before they went off track, like they always do in our roundtables. So we thank you for listening.
You spent another 45 minutes.
Yeah, you've got to check out our roundtable podcasts. If nothing else, it's fun to watch us get off topic within about 5 minutes.
And we love your comments, questions, and even if you want to be involved.
Yes, we're always looking for new ideas for topics and people to talk to, or just what you're interested in hearing about. Or if there's something you think that we're sadly neglecting, go to AnnetteTalks.com or email me at Annette@AnnetteTalks.com. And let's get a conversation going. I really want this to be a community podcast where people feel free to talk to each other and share ideas and share experiences.
You should be able to email me too at steve@AnnetteTalks.com.
I'll have to think about that. Anyway, the website's called Annette Talks.
It doesn't mean you can't have...
Not Steve
It
Talks.
doesn't mean you couldn't have something there
just
for
message me, and then if Steve wants to talk to you, he'll reply. Let's put it that way. All right, so thank you for joining us for LDS Unmarried Life. This is the podcast. And I'd like to, again, shout out to my sister, Jane Greaves. She did the music that you hear at the beginning and the end of our podcast. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I'm gonna blue